Hello and welcome. This is Property Hotline on Magic Bricks Now, and I'm Kavita Krishnan. As you can see, we are not in the studio. We have stepped out of the studio, and this is an effort on our behalf to take Property Hotline to you, to the home buyer, to the society owner, to the home owners, in fact, and get you in touch with our experts so that you can ask them questions on a one-on-one basis. We have taken Property Hotline on ground, and in our first edition, we are here in one of Mumbai's oldest housing society, the Kalina Cooperative Housing Society, which like its name is located in Kalina. With me today is Vinay Singh. Vinay, as you know, is a legal expert. He's a tax expert. He's also a well-renowned expert on housing society issues. Vinay, welcome to the show. And let's get started. We have with us the members of the Kalina Housing Society. So can we start with you?
Yeah.
Can you introduce yourself?
My name is Srikant Gokavi. And my question is, does society formed by MHADA, does that come under the provision of MOFA Act? This is one question. Another question, you have seen our society is a bit unique. We all want to go for gas connection. In that connection, would you like to help us?
Okay. So let's take the first question first,
Sure.
Vinay. He asked whether the society formed by MHADA comes under MOFA. I would like to take it one step further. Now we know that very soon you will have RERA coming into force, and if I'm not mistaken, the RERA draft very clearly says that projects that are being built by development bodies do not come under the RERA Act. What happens after a society is formed?
Well, MOFA essentially is an act that deals with the relationship between the builder, the developer and the unit buyer. In MOFA, section 18 is very clear that MOFA does not apply to societies created by MHADA or any board which is formed by MHADA itself. So the result is that MOFA doesn't apply, and as Kavita pointed out, now that the new RERA is coming, even in RERA, there is a similar provision saying that none of these boards, etc., the RERA will not apply to them.
So if that is the case for a society which has been constructed by MHADA and, like you very clearly said, doesn't fall under MOFA, doesn't fall under RERA, where do they go for redressal?
No, once the society is formed, you have the registrar of societies, you have the cooperative courts. So that is where you would go for redressal. But MOFA is essentially to deal with when you purchase something from a builder, then there are certain obligations that developer has. He is supposed to deliver something to you in the manner that you have agreed, by a time that you have agreed. So all those relationships and timelines are governed by MOFA. Post you purchasing, a society is formed by the members, then you are on a different platform. Then you would be going to the registrar or the cooperative court for all your troubles.
So till then, till you actually form a society, where do you seek redressal? Say the project is delayed for some reason, then where do you go for redressal?
You have two options. One is you can go to city civil court, which I personally would not advise you. The other, of course, is the consumer forum, which has shown in recent years that while it may take a little time, but the kind of justice you are getting from there, the kind of judgments that are coming are quite remarkable. I mean, city civil court would give you a 9% interest for delay, but a consumer forum judge may tell the builder, all right, you have delayed for 8 years, you give him a flat or a unit of what was agreed to be given. And you can appreciate that in 8-9 years of delay, the values change dramatically. So these are the kind of judgments we are getting from there. So it's better that you go to consumer forum if you have a problem.
Which means the government has very smartly kept itself outside of the ambit of the RERA. Next question, yes, the lady in white.
I'm Beena Daftari, joint holder of B37-148. The question we have here on behalf of the society, can any authority construct a project in any layout without first getting the layout approved? In the instance of Sundarnagar, the layout has still not been approved, thereby denying FSI to one of the members.
So the layout has not been approved by the government in this case, you're saying. And this is one of the oldest housing societies in Mumbai. What can be done, Vinay?
Well, the problem here is that this society has a very long history. These houses you now see were originally barracks in World War II. Thereafter, they were handed over to the Bombay Housing Board, which is the precursor of Maharashtra Housing Board, and then to MHADA. So the result is that although it was a defined layout, it has never been approved formally as a layout. That is causing a lot of hardship to the residents. The result is that, because we don't have a layout, we cannot say that we have a recreation space. The 15% is mandatory for you to keep. So the BMC, while sanctioning plans, restricts your FSI to 0.85 instead of 1. So that is what is the problem that the residents are facing. Now the layout of course has to be approved. Today if you go and you want to create a project in a MHADA controlled layout, the layout has to be approved. So why this was not done is a good question. What I suggest that one should approach MHADA and say that this layout needs to be approved. If it is not being approved, then the only way is you either then use RTI to put pressure on them. If that does not work, then you will have to go to court and sort this out. There is no other way.
But you have to get the layout approved, because as I understand, this is also a very old housing society. Say tomorrow you go in for redevelopment, and your layout is not approved. That is the very first step in fact, and that is going to create hurdles. So that's something that you need to sort out as soon as possible. So go approach the MHADA, if not take them to court. Next. Yes sir.
Does individual can approach the MHADA, or it has to go through the society?
That's a great follow-on question.
It's a good question, but very clearly it will have to be the society, because it's the society now which is holding everything, the land especially, and this is one of the rare cases in Mumbai where MHADA has actually conveyed the land to the society. It does not normally happen. Today, as you know, it is just a maximum of 30 years lease. So to find freehold land given by MHADA is quite rare, and obviously since the society is the owner of the land, it is society which will have to approach the MHADA and or the BMC to try and get the layout approved.
Right. Vinay, I think that gentleman in the printed shirt has a question.
Yeah. Good afternoon to you all. My name is Narayan. I am the joint owner of tenement 37. My question is, as Vinay had pointed out, we get a FSI of 0.85. In case a member wants to go for additional FSI, he needs to pay a premium. Will he get any compensation for the premium that he pays, either from the government, BMC or MHADA or somebody?
I think it's
also one more additional question. Now, since it is a homeowner trying to buy FSI over here, you get home loans to buy a house. You get some kind of finance to buy land, though a home loan typically doesn't cover land. What kind of loan would cover FSI?
Well, what happens typically here is that most of the banks and housing finance companies would give you a loan for construction. For land, nobody gives a loan, but for construction, yes, you would get a loan. Having said that, yes, this is a very valid point. If the government authorities are going to delay recognizing this as a layout, which it has been for decades literally, then somebody is answerable for it. Why must an individual citizen be required to pay extra by way of premium while the government officials are sitting doing nothing? So I think that's a very fair question. And again, if either the society can launch this, or at the very least a group of people who have been directly impacted and have ended up paying premium could definitely approach MHADA and BMC both. If it's going legal, then you must make both parties, because maybe it's MHADA's fault for not recognizing or settling the layout, but it is the BMC who has been charging you the premium. So don't make the mistake of suing only one, you have to sue both. But get together as a group and then you could take it up with these authorities. Definitely you must demand compensation. We are now in an age where courts are beginning to recognize that citizens do have rights. So please do it as a group.
In fact, that was something I wanted to ask you on behalf of all the members also. The fact that all of the problems seem to stem from the issue that, the layout has not yet been approved. Because of that, they are not getting enough FSI. They are not getting the FSI that they are eligible for, because of which they have to actually pay a premium and buy FSI for their own homes. And obviously the money is coming out of their pocket. Yes. I mean, say the MHADA and the BMC, and obviously it's a very old society, I'm sure they've approached the government before, and say the MHADA and the BMC are not really entertaining them. Can they then just directly go to court and as a group, and because they are such a huge group, can they can they file a class action suit? Absolutely,
they have to, because the way authorities behave in India, it's not likely that you write a letter or send a notice and they are going to say, okay, here's your money. It's never going to happen. So you will have to battle it out. Let's be very clear about that. So obviously there is strength in numbers, your case becomes better. If there's one person saying, oh, I need compensation, it's a different story. But if there's 100 people saying we need compensation, it's quite a different story. So that's how you will have to approach it.
So essentially strength in numbers. Sir, I know you want to ask us a question, but let's have some participation from this side. Yes, sir.
Sudhakar Chaudhary. See, this society is entangled into a legal battle. 30 years plus, this society into court, right, I think up to Supreme Court, to sort out this matter of FSI. The parties are society MHADA, okay? In view of this, what is happening today, they are also trying to sell our FSI to a third party, another builder. Can it happen? This is my first question. Then,
Who's they? Who's they? Is it
some builder, some XYZ builder.
No, you are saying MHADA is trying to sell
MHADA
it.
is trying to sell. MHADA is trying to sell our FSI because they have conveyed only partially. To give you a little background, he is also aware the partial conveyance only is the house, a land below it, and little apartment land. Even the approach roads are not conveyed. And view of this is an entangle. 30 years in the court. Further, how many years we are going to be in the court, we don't know. Okay. Under the circumstances, MHADA is taking an advantage and trying to sell our FSI to a third party. That's, can they do it? And what is the remedy out?
That's also a great question. Can the development body create third-party rights without the consent of the residents?
What we have understood and what we have seen here is that, as he rightly put it, the body MHADA has conveyed the house and the land beneath the house. There are sewerage lines going behind, and there is a common alleyway between the houses, between the blocks. These are areas which MHADA has not conveyed. MHADA has promised to do so in writing, but has not done it. So obviously, now that it's in court, we all have to await the decision of the court. However, this is freehold land, and a third party cannot sell FSI on freehold land. And since the matter is in court, anybody buying it will be immediately subject to the decision of this case, the court, whatever decision the court gives in this matter. So nobody would like to take that risk. If it goes against them, they lose everything. So it's difficult for somebody to buy. Thankfully, because in Kalina Society's case, it is ownership land and not leased.
Right. Ma'am, before we come to you, there is this question that's come in on our website. Sam has written an email. Now he wants to know, he's saying that we are going in for redevelopment. Should we go for a housing society? Should we opt for a housing society, or should we form a condominium post redevelopment?
Well, these are two different models. The condominium plays another role in the sense that if you are less than 10 units, it's not possible for you to generally form a society, and you could form a condominium with as few as 5 in number. The essential difference is that in the society, it is the society that owns the structure, possibly owns the land, or if the land is leased, is the lessee of the land. But in a condominium, it is you, the individual owner, who owns the particular unit and also has an undivided share in the common area and amenities in proportion to the size of your unit. So it's just two different models. The way the units are structured, you have to form a condominium, the act is different. It's Maharashtra Apartment Owners Act. There you have to go and register what is called a declaration under section 2, which makes your unit and your undivided share transferable and heritable. By heritable, we mean you can even will it to your whoever you want to will it to. So that's the essential difference. In the society, you have 5 and now today 10 shares, and you can transfer those shares, and along with those shares the right to the unit, but you do not directly have ownership rights in the particular unit.
Right. And before we come to you, ma'am, there's one other thing that I wanted to ask you. Now, I recall reading somewhere that if you a house, it's more advantageous for a member to actually form a housing society rather than a condominium, because the Housing Society Act has been in force for a much longer time. There are far more precedents, there are far more judgments over there. So people are more, essentially people are more comfortable with it. Now, is that reason enough to opt for a housing society when probably a condominium would be more beneficial for you?
The problem is that the housing societies are over-regulated. The department wants to literally poke its sense into things that it has no business doing. So yes, you will find a lot of judgments. You will find a lot of rules and circulars, etc., governing various aspects. That is not what you will find under the Apartment Owners Act, although the authority enforcing both the acts is the same. But you will not find that many judgments, you will not find that many laws. So there will be a lot of grey areas definitely. But having said that, lot of people, there is a section of people who feels that, oh, I would like to be the owner of my property rather than holding an indirect stake in it. So this is a call members have to take. If you are more comfortable with the society, with all its various precedents available to you, fine. If not, then you want to be the direct owner, then you'll have to go for a condominium.
I want to get this question answered, Vinay. SS Verma has written in to us on email. Now he wants to know, he's saying my society has not issued share certificates in spite of being formed 3 years back. All his payment and paperwork is complete. However, despite regular reminders, the share certificates have not been released to anybody. Can he stop his monthly maintenance payment in protest against non-receipt of share certificate? What penalties can be levied by the deputy registrar in this case?
These are two entirely different things. One is that society is not issued a share certificate, which they should have done within 6 months. But so that's their fault. Yes, definitely. And you can take that up separately. But the minute you say I'm not going to pay my dues, that's a different thing altogether, and you would be at fault. So Mr. Verma, this is not something that you should do, because were the society to approach the registrar, say under section 101, the first thing the registrar will do is tell you, please deposit the money, and then we will speak further.
No, but tell me this, how does Mr. Verma register a protest? Because obviously a society, he's been writing to the society and they are not releasing a share certificate. They've clearly not given it to anybody over there. I mean, for whatever reason they are holding it back. How does he register a protest?
He must go and make a formal complaint before the registrar. And today, as we can see, under the new act from 2013, the law is becoming stiffer. You may not need to do an indemnity bond any longer, like a lot of people were worried earlier that that bond has been scrapped. But the law itself is becoming tougher. So committee members are more accountable. Registrar is going to ask them that what were you doing for the last 3 years. So that is the complaint he has to make, that please ask the society to issue the certificate to me, which they are bound to do. But he cannot hold back the dues.
So don't hold back the dues, ensure that you pay your maintenance bill. One quick question, Vinay. What is a share certificate? Why is it so important? This is for the benefit of all our viewers.
The share certificate is a very, very important document because that signifies your membership in the society. And society can only deal with its member. If there are other people who may have a right or title to the particular flat or unit, but if they are not members, the society cannot officially deal with them. So this is your membership. This is what entitles you to occupy the particular unit that you have paid good money for. So without that, it's a little difficult. You will not get a housing loan easily. There will be so many issues.
Right, and when you try to actually sell that property and move on, you won't be able to transfer the property because the share certificate is actually what gets transferred physically from your name to the buyer's name. So that is something that you need to keep in mind. There is a very interesting question that's come in, and this is something that really interests you, Vinay. So Vinod Keval Ramani says that he stays in Silver West Society in Matunga. I am a nominee of a flat that is on my grandmother's name. The society is not giving the acknowledgement even after accepting a check or letter. We complained to the registrar instructed the society to give an acknowledgement. Registrar has appointed an administrator. Now the administrators are not responding to my complaint and is not taking action. Also, the society says there is no record of my nomination. What can be done? Now this is something that we've discussed very often on the show and offline as well. What should Vinod do? And before we move on, if you could tell us the difference between willing property and nominating somebody to the property.
Well, sometimes there's a lot of misunderstanding in our minds, and it's not the fault, it's not your fault. Most people are lay people, they don't understand the law so clearly, and the department has done nothing to help you in that, let me tell you. In fact, they have added to the confusion year after year. So when you are a nominee, it simply means that you are a trustee of the property. All that the society has to do, in fact, the society has no choice. Under section 30, if somebody dies and the nominee makes an application for membership, the society has no business inquiring about who are the legal heirs, whether there is a will or not, letters of administration, none of this is required. Under section 30, society simply has to transfer to the nominee. It's the nominee who will become your member, and society then has to only deal with the nominee. So there may be other people who are legal heirs. Like say out of 3 or 4 legal heirs, one becomes a nominee and that person becomes your member. Society cannot recognize the other people unless they become at least associate members. Only then can you recognize them. So society deals with the nominee. But that does not mean that the nominee has become the owner of the property. For ownership, there has to be a will bequeathing the property and the shares to the particular person. If not a will, then your personal law will take over. If you are a Hindu, we'll follow Hindu law. If you are a Christian, we'll follow Indian Succession Act. If you are Muslim, we'll follow Muslim law. So that is how you would be acquiring a title to the property. So what we always advise is, please do make a will, and whoever you have bequeathed the property to, make them or him or her the nominee as well. Nomination has a very useful role. The usefulness is that society, without asking questions, is bound to transfer it. So your movement of the shares from the nominator to the nominee happens, no questions asked. Title will follow either by will or by your personal law.
If it is a will and if it is not probated, is it okay or not okay?
Well, in the principal cities of Mumbai, Kolkata, Chennai, Delhi, right from initial times, under Transfer of Property Act, you are supposed to probate the will, and that law holds good even today. So if you have made a will in Mumbai, or you have made a will regarding properties in Mumbai, then by law you are supposed to make, you are supposed to get a probate done. The problem is that it's a time consuming and expensive process both. So a lot of people don't do it. And you have nomination facilities available. So a lot of people use nomination to move property into their successor's name, even movable property like shares, etc. And there is a will to back it up. So people are happy with that. But sometimes if you get stuck, you have forgotten to make a nomination, property value is used, or there's land involved, then you may be required to follow the law and go and get a probate done.
So essentially probate is keeping the will open for you know, like the government does. When the government comes out with a new policy, keeps it open for a couple of months for public opinion, suggestions and opinions. This is essentially that. They just want to ensure that there is nobody else trying to contest that.
Yes, it would give a notice to all the legal heirs, and if there is no objection, then it will be certified. If there is a contest, then it would be treated as if it's a dispute, and once the dispute is resolved, they'll put their seal on the will and ask the executor to go ahead.
So if you are the rightful heir to a property, it in fact actually cements your position as the rightful heir to the property. And coming back to our question on nomination, what is essential, what you need to remember over here is the nominee is just a trustee for that particular property. So if there are 3 siblings and one person is a nominee, that nominee is holding the property in trust. The nominee is not necessarily the rightful heir of the property. You inherit the property only if somebody has willed it to you. Right? And that will ideally should be probated, like Vinay just pointed out.
I'm Mr. Nair, the Secretary of the Society also. I would like to ask a different question. Now regarding property taxes, previously it was based on a rent basis. Now your property taxes are based on ready reckoner rates. Now they have made a cap for 5 years. Every 5 years the rate keeps on changing. So the next rate is somewhere in next 2019 or 20 when the new rates will come. The ready reckoner rates keeps on increasing every year. They keep on, that is one source of earning revenue for the government. But since our property taxes are correlated to the ready reckoner rate, that means my property taxes are going to increase at the end of the 5th year in terms of, now, how is the member going to benefit by the increase? For whatever higher rates we are paying to the corporation, how can we expect more benefits? See, when you increase the rates, you have to give proportionate infrastructure facilities to the members. Here it has become like an income tax, just the rates every financial year, the taxes are raised. We know for certain the ready reckoner rates keep on increasing every year, but your taxes, they has to keep you on a cushion. After 5 years, they increase based on that. But the burden is finally at the end of the flat holders. So when my tax increases, what sort of benefit we can fight out to get more benefits from the corporation or from any other authority?
So that is why we have a forum like Magic Bricks now, where we are fighting for civic issues, where we are fighting for citizens' rights to ensure that you get you get the services that you are paying for. However, let me bring Vinay in, and it's a very great time to actually answer this question, because we know that GST will be coming in soon, and chances are that with GST coming in, the taxes that you pay as property owners might just go up, because the states will look to recover revenue for the revenue that they are going to lose because of GST. So how do they ensure that they get good services?
Well, the only way out seems to be, as of now, protests and litigation, because for decades we have seen that the municipal corporation is collecting money and we have nothing. The first shower that we have potholes all over, and I have been reading in the last 2 weeks there at least 2 or 3 deaths have taken place by people. One is reported in today morning's paper. You hit a pothole on a two-wheeler, you fall off and a truck runs you over. That's today morning's newspaper for you. So these are, I mean, the way I see it, somebody should file a case of attempted murder or, you know, a criminal case, because this is criminal. You're taking money, it's being siphoned off, we can see it, and then finally we don't have roads, we don't have water, we don't have, you know, sewerage. These are all issues that have to be taken up. But as of now, who's to listen to us? So we discuss it with the elected representatives and we demand it. Or we go to court. Even the consumer forum is open. So all these avenues we have to explore and take it up. Otherwise, yes, as you said, every 5 years they'll increase the tax and it's only going to go up, it's not coming down.
And that note, that's a very good note, in fact, to end this very special edition of Property Hotline. In fact, this is something that we keep repeating on the channel time and again, the fact that you need to stand up for your rights, whether you are a homeowner, whether you are a home buyer, whether you are a society member or whether you are a citizen. You need to stand up for your rights. If wherever possible, go and approach the court. Numbers help, like we've learnt in the course of the show. So approach the court as a group, that will help you get the notice. The other thing that you can also do is try and make the government a party to your case. So if it is civic issues you're protesting, like the last gentleman who asked a question here, go take the government to court, take the BMC to court. You are paying taxes, you should get your money's worth. Similarly, you are paying taxes, you are paying bills to the society, you should get your money's worth over there. And if you have bought property, you should get your money's worth. You have a right to get that home back on time. Vinay, thank you very much for joining us, for answering all the questions that the panel put forth. And thank you all. Like I said, this is our first attempt of taking Property Hotline out to you, to the citizens, the home buyers, and we will follow it up with more such editions in future. Thank you very much. Keep watching Magic Bricks Now.
You can watch live TV on our website mpnow.in. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/magicbricksnow. And don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at Magic Bricks Now. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/magicbricksnow.